Well, there's my new yard hydrant. They put this little 2-foot piece of tape there, and I just marked it with a magic marker so I know where the soil level should be. And there's the box it came in, and this shows you how it works. Now it comes there and you have to put a L on it and plumb it up to your pipe that's in the ground. And this is in the off position. See, the handle is down. It's in the off position, so that part right there seals the intake of water. And this weep hole on the side is exposed. So if you had been using this and cut it off, all the water in this pipe would drain out that hole. And then it seals off the incoming flow. When you pull the handle up, this rubber cartridge slides up and covers that hole and exposes this opening for the water to go up the pipe. And that's how it works. In the on position, the water can get through here and go up, and in the off position, it's down here and seals the water off and lets the water drain out of the pipe. Now we got to plumb this thing up. I believe the old pump that's bent, I can take that to a machine shop and they can put it in a hydraulic press and straighten that pipe for me, and then I can pull it out and straighten the interior rod that controls the cartridge and put a new cartridge in it, and I could have one for just probably no more than $20 for him to straighten that pipe. It would cost you that much to get a piece of pipe cut that exact length, plus it would be very difficult to get that bottom piece off of it because that's been underground, it's all corroded. So I could just take that somewhere, and I've had done that before and had it straightened up. Not to get too long, you need some kind of a pipe wrench. This is an oldie but goodie. I like to collect old tools. This thing had a pivot point on it, and that little spring would help you work it, and the jaws are there. This is one that is a Sears Roebuck, and this is one that's a Craftsman, and that is one of mine. When I was a pipe fitter, you had to provide your own pipe wrenches up to 18 inches, and I worked for a major corporation and they provided them 24 inches and above. The biggest I ever used was 48 inches, so you could tell we were dealing with heavy big pipes. And when you got away from the cheaper brands of pipe wrenches, you had to have the welder weld your initials on them so people wouldn't steal them. And they would steal them in a big plant. You've got work there and you go away and come back and somebody might have pilfered it walking by. And the biggest thing with one of these is to have these teeth really nice and sharp. You can see where right there's a little worn down, but those teeth are still good and squared off and biting. And see, these are, even though there's a little rust on it, and these are worn down because this is probably from the 30s, late 30s. Possibly early 40s, but that's my wife's grandfather's, and he died during World War II of a heart attack. Well, this is a valve that was on it, and there you can look at that where I took that out, and now you know why people love copper. That's been in the ground for over 20 years, and I haven't done anything to it but unscrew it with a pipe wrench in my vise that I put up over there. That's why people like copper. That's what was in there. Now you need to do this again to put something on your new valve. And this is what it needs to look like. Now, each one of these joints could leak conceivably, and you can use a street elbow. See, that's a 90-degree street elbow. It's threaded on one side. Now you get more flow using nipples, but it's a stronger joint if you use this. And I don't think that would really reduce it if you wanted to, but I'm going to put it together with nipples. And you need to use ribbon dope. Now, let me tell you a little stuff about ribbon dope. Here's a little ribbon dope you buy in the store, and they're like 99 cents. And they're okay for little do-it-yourself projects. But if you were a professional doing this and you don't want to go back on the job a second or third time, you would not use this because it's too thin. If you can hold this up to the light and see through it, I can't use that light source, but if you can see through the tape, it's thin. And if you do this for a living, you'd want to use a higher quality tape. They have it, but they'll have 100 of these stuck on the end cap in a big box store, and it's good for just everyday use. And then this tape is just stronger, and it is made for water lines. And you know this is going to be buried in the ground, so I'd rather use tape that costs $3 than one that costs 99 cents. I don't want to dig it up and I don't want it leaking. So anyway, you got to put this tape on everything, and we've got to discuss this fitting. The reason this broke is because I hit it with a lawnmower, and it wasn't encased in concrete at the top to protect the pipe from being bent. But there's a problem here that you should always be bringing PVC, where you glue this onto the existing pipe, to a threaded portion that threads onto metal, not the reverse. And see, this was a PCV joint like that with threads on it that went inside of this, and that made a weaker joint. Now here's a PCV fitting that was used in this installation. This isn't the piece that broke. And that thread was put into a piece of metal. The problem with it is the threads cut halfway through this. Now it's great for just a normal line that never has any pressure on it, but it's a lot thinner from the bottom of that groove to inside here than it is with a piece of metal that's stronger. And see, this part that's threaded to go on the male pipe, this is a female pipe fitting, and it's a lot more meat in this. See how it's the little collar that's in there is really your stopping surface. When you glue it up, you just push it onto it, hits that little ring there, but it's a lot more meat in this. So when they cut the threads, from the base of these threads to the outside is thicker, and it makes a stronger joint. This is precarious because when you screw that into metal, it doesn't take very much for it to break up here, and that's what happened. So now I'm just going to put some ribbon dope on this and put this stuff together. When you're dealing with pieces of pipes and nipples, and these are just to join things together in a run. Now if it has no flat edge in the center here, it's called a close nipple. If it's got this little shoulder on it, it's called a shoulder nipple. And then when you get to the lengths of nipples of 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, that part just expands. And when they cut threads on metal pipe, the die goes on the end and starts cutting the thread. But you may not be able to see this, but that thread is tapered from the top to the bottom, so it's less diameter here than it is here. So it's sort of like a wedge. And when the die cuts the first thread and the second thread and the third thread, it's still cutting the first thread. So when you get there and you've cut as far as you need to cut, this is narrower across there than that. So when you put that in a piece of PCV and you screw it in, it's like a wedge, and as you screw it in, you can break that. And the rule of thumb with this, if you don't have an imperfection in the thread, and you can come up on them. See, that's an imperfection on a thread that I had to clear off, and I'll rat tail file that off there because it just wasn't threaded perfect.